Flood Awareness Week continues with a short discussion on warm season flooding resulting from tropical rainfall. Did you know that during the passage of a tropical cyclone or its remnants, both flash flooding and river flooding are likely? In fact, the remnants of a tropical cyclone typically affect our region every 2 to 3 years on average. As shown on the chart, most fatalities that occur during tropical cyclones are attributable to inland freshwater flooding, not storm surge or strong winds. This may be surprising, but reinforces the fact that flooding is a serious threat to life and property. In fact, the top 3 weather-related disasters in Vermont history were a result of flooding from a tropical cyclone or its remnants. There are several features which govern the distribution of heavy rainfall and potential flooding during the passage of a tropical system. These are, but are not limited to, the speed of the system, the interaction with mountainous terrain, if present, interaction with other features such as a stalled surface front, and lastly, antecedent rainfall and soil moisture conditions. Pictured here is a map of total rainfall that occurred during Tropical Storm Irene. While most areas received very heavy rainfall, the map clearly shows that the heaviest totals were occurring in the higher terrain of the Green and Adirondack Mountains. This is quite common, as warm moist air is driven upward by the mountains where locally heavy precipitation then occurs. However, antecedent rainfall and soil moisture conditions are perhaps the most important factors that influence the potential for flooding during a tropical cyclone or any other heavy rainfall event for that matter. Wet or saturated soil cannot hold as much moisture as dry soil. Thus, when heavy rain falls on saturated soils, water will not be absorbed and will rapidly run off into area streams, rivers, and in some cases overland areas. This was the case during Tropical Storm Irene and the Great Flood of 1927. The map shown here represents soil moisture levels immediately after the passage of Tropical Storm Irene. Note how the soils in the North Country are ranked as very wet. Tropical Storm Irene lashed the region on August 27 and 28, 2011, and was among the costliest weather disasters in the North Country's history. Irene was a large West Indian hurricane, taking a classic recurving path from the tropical Atlantic through the Bahamas and northward before slowly weakening to tropical storm strength across New England. What made Irene's path unusual, however, was the fact that the recurving process did not take the storm out to sea, but due northward along the eastern seaboard and into western New England, including Vermont. Widespread heavy rainfall on the order of 3 to 7 inches occurred on top of antecedent wet ground conditions, leading to devastating flooding in eastern and southern Vermont and in portions of the Adirondack Mountains of eastern New York. Irene caused extreme and in some cases record flooding. As a result, a federal disaster was declared for most of the state on September the 1st, 2011, only 3 days after the event. Total dollar damages to the North Country infrastructure was estimated in the $1 to $2 billion range. Shown here is the hydrograph trace for the east branch of the Ausable River at Ausable Forks, New York, showing the record crest in excess of 18 feet observed during Irene. Devastating, life-threatening flooding occurred throughout the Ausable River Valley on the evening of August the 28th and into the early morning hours on the 29th. Hurricane Floyd took a similar path to Irene, tracking along the eastern seaboard before weakening to a tropical storm as it passed through New England on September 17, 1999. A federal disaster was declared for 10 Vermont counties as a result of wind and flood damage. The magnitude of Floyd's rainfall was similar and in some cases even greater than that of Irene, but flooding was less due to antecedent dry weather. This emphasizes the importance of soil moisture conditions prior to and during such events. The Great New England Hurricane of September 21, 1938, nicknamed the Long Island Express due to its fast movement, caused massive destruction to much of New England, including Vermont. Similar to Floyd and Irene, the 1938 storm was a large West Indian hurricane with origins in the tropical Atlantic. It is still regarded to this day as the most destructive hurricane to strike New England in the past 100 years, and the only storm to maintain hurricane strength in Vermont since 1788. While flooding was noteworthy, particularly across southern Vermont, destructive winds caused the most damage, leveling large tracts of forest along the eastern portions of the state, as shown in this U.S. Forest Service map. The Great Flood of November 3 and 4, 1927 is still to this day regarded as the greatest natural disaster in Vermont history. It resulted from the remnants of a tropical storm interacting with a stalled surface front across the area. Antecedent conditions during October were extremely wet, setting the stage for devastating flooding when 5 to 9 inches of tropical rainfall pummeled the state on November 3 and 4. With runoff exacerbated by the near saturated ground conditions, and without the beneficial help of vegetation taking up a portion of the water, the stage was set for devastating flooding. Countless homes and roads were destroyed, along with 1,285 bridges. Unfortunately, 84 Vermonters lost their lives, mainly due to the extreme flooding. This event, along with the Great Hurricane of 1938, helped heighten public awareness to the threat of flooding in New England, and ultimately laid the groundwork for the creation of many dams and other flood control measures now in existence across our region. In review, some of the top weather disasters that have occurred in Vermont history were due to tropical cyclones or their remnants. Surprisingly, inland flooding remains the primary threat to life and property across the nation and the North Country during such events, eclipsing ocean storm surge and wind by a large margin, though wind did play a substantial role in the case of the 1938 hurricane. Thus, it's paramount to review all flood safety rules and take appropriate actions as necessary the next time a tropical cyclone affects our region. Thank you for viewing this presentation on warm season flooding from tropical rainfall. For more information on flood facts, flood awareness, and preparation, visit us on the web at www.weather.gov/btv, like us on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter. Thank you.